Soul Spike in Legacy? More likely than you'd think. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. We've got a really sweet mono black deck coming up today, but before I get going with anything else, I just wanted to say that today's video is sponsored by, mirrored camera, intotheam.com. I love their clothing. Pretty much every video that I record has me wearing this clothing. Their stuff is soft, it fits well, it's really comfortable, and if you are into awesome graphic tees in particular, this site is the best. So I personally have the Mystic Brew t-shirt on the way to me, and I'm really excited for this one. I just kind of love their witchy vibes that they have on a lot of their stuff. I am into the spooky. And if you want some awesome clothing that fits well, they have short sleeve graphic t-shirts. They have really nice, comfortable long sleeve shirts. I use these as my work shirts literally every single day. Please check them out. I have a link in the video description. You can use my promo code ThrabenU or click that link in my video description to save an additional percentage off of their already really good sales for Black Friday, which run from November 13th to December 8th. Really check them out. I fully vouch for this company. So, Mark gave me a dealer's choice donation deck list, and I've got something fun for you all today. Crucible of Words sent me a message and was like, hey, you should check this deck out. It is absolutely right up your alley, and they were 100% correct. This is a nonsense mono black deck. Necrodominance is occasionally played as an all-in combo deck list that seeks to draw 19 cards and then storm off at the end step after making it so you can cast all of your spells with flash. But this deck is a little bit different. You are seeking to play a little bit more of a mid-range game, and you would love to resolve an ancient Cellarspawn, which has an ability that whenever you cast a spell, if the amount of mana spent to cast it was less than its mana value, target opponent loses life equal to the difference. So in our dream world, in some order, we play Necrodominance and Ancient Cellarspawn, and then we draw a bunch of cards, and in our end step, we go and cast a whole bunch of pitch cards or spells that we can otherwise greatly reduce their cost. And when we do that, we are going to very quickly drain our opponents out. Unmask can serve as our Thoughtseize in this deck, which can potentially allow us to just Necrodominance with protection early on, and later on, these can turn into just 4 damage burn spells at the cost of pitching a card if we do have our Ancient Cellarspawn. Now, there are other combos within this deck list as well. We can't just fully rely on Necrodominance if we're not tutoring for it, so the One Ring becomes our backup plan. And the One Ring with Sholdred is notoriously powerful. If we have either Sholdred if we have Sholdred and either Necrodominance or the One Ring available to us, we can gain a whole bunch of life back right after we pay a bunch of life, making it so that the life loss isn't actually super relevant to us, while we are hopefully burning our opponents out. I watched Crucible of Words deck tech and sort of wrap up. It seemed like this deck was relatively powerful. They made a bunch of suggestions for how to improve the deck, but kind of went back and forth about what should actually be done. So I'm going to go ahead and run the list that they did in their own video and kind of see what I think of it as it is. One final note here, this deck is playing 13 basic swamps, but there are a decent number of these modal double-faced cards here. The primary reason being that you want to be able to pitch these to cards like Soul Spike, and when you are going and doing your Necrodominance thing, you do not want to draw colorless cards. It's fine to be playing the One Ring, but you'll notice that this deck isn't playing something like Lotus Petal or Chrome Mox, and this is the reason for it. While you in theory want that fast mana, and it might make you better at pumping out some of these things, if you are looking to have something like 9 black cards in your hand for a combo turn, the more colorless cards you have in your deck, and those swamps are counting as colorless cards for this purpose, the higher chance you have at kind of missing for some sort of combo kill in your end step. Sideboard has kind of some pretty common stuff here. Ratchet Bomb is not seeing a lot of legacy play right now. Kind of the big reason that you want to run something like this is that this deck can't beat Hexing Bauble. Like, if your plan is to cast some large number of freeze spells, then you really, really, really need to be able to clear a Ratchet Bomb, and that's something that's hard to do in mono black. I have some questions about the deck building here. Like, I don't know if you should be running some number. Oh, this is a beautiful swamp, by the way. I don't know if you should be running some number of fetch lands to make Fatal Push better than it already is. That is a real concern. I don't know if Fatal Push should just not be in the Game 1 deck and it should be in the sideboard and I should be mainboarding the Duresses. I think I need to play a league with this and kind of make my own conclusions here. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into some games here. Folks, if you need some cards, please consider checking out my other sponsor for this video, TOAMagic.com. Tales of Adventure is an awesome store. I'm going to be ordering a bunch of mono black cards from them in the not too distant future. I've got an EDH deck that I want to build that I don't quite have the list together for. But I know when I do, I will get free shipping from them, and I can use my own promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on my order. Seems sweet. Let's battle. Okay, I think I'm into this hand. We have a turn to the One Ring, hopefully followed by a Shouldered slightly thereafter. This deck is not built to be a just turbo deck, just all in, do the thing on turn 1 every single time. And so I don't think I am going to try to play it in that capacity. Our turn 2 could get slightly more awkward if my opponent can just daze and take out the One Ring. So we're going to give them a dazable Fatal Push on turn 1 here, attempting to take out this Tamiyo. And then we'll pass the turn. Second land, second Tamiyo. Now, are we doing the thing, or do I want to slow roll this game? I don't really hate slow rolling this game. I think I don't want to get wastelanded. I think I am going to go ahead and just Fatal Push and attempt to take out this Tamiyo, but I'm going to wait to see if my opponent fetches a Surveil land at end of turn. They don't, in which case I'm going to try this in upkeep. All right, cool. We did not eat Brainstorm there. This is fine. So now on my turn, I can shock and then attempt to play the One Ring, and my opponent could have Game 1 Bowmasters, which would be a little bit annoying, admittedly. The Fatal Pushes, by the way, immediately doing some real work in slowing down my opponent's mid-range plan. Well, that's mighty interesting. I don't think that's the plan. I think I take 3 Dark Ritual and try to stick either Shouldered or the One Ring as a meaningful card. I think it's the One Ring. I draw immediately, and then hopefully do some cool stuff in some capacity next turn. Again, Orcish Bowmasters is a bit of a conceptual concern. All right, we are brainstorming to flip Tamiyo into Planeswalker mode, which I don't currently care all that much about. I will hopefully just do something unfair enough that the ultimate is not threatening, and the graveyard is currently okay, but not stacked enough that I'm hyper concerned about it. That makes it harder to do my really cool things this turn, but that does mean that I'm not getting Bowmastered immediately. I think my Resolved Permanent is currently stronger than my opponent's Resolved Permanent. I do not like this sequencing here. I think you ponder prior to wastelanding so that you make your decisions with the highest amount of information available. This can hit Planeswalkers, so, you know, not hitting any lands there was rough. Now I can't Ancient Cellarspawn or Shouldered. I think I want to see what's going on over there. Double Daze. So I can take 1 Daze and then March of Wretched Sorrow junking. That's 2 less for each card. Junking 2 cards to get rid of Tamiyo. I'm not, like, the most excited about that, but it's probably fine given that I have the One Ring. Alright. Junk one of these. I only have 2 more removal spells in my entire deck, not counting Marches. I kind of want this Ancient Cellarspawn. Let's cast this, paying 1 black. Done. So we know the exact contents of my opponent's hand. They're going to have 1 random draw and then 1 clue draw here. God damn it. Fucking Psychic Frog. Alright. Let's draw some mana, please, here. That counts. That definitely counts. That's not quite how I wanted this to play out. I wanted to draw some free stuff to do Ancient Cellarspawn crimes this turn, and that's why I didn't just shoulder it immediately. Daze, Thoughtseize, and Fatal Push kind of covers a lot of bases here. I'm always playing a swamp. It's really awkward to just, like, do Host One Ring draw shouldered. It's also really awkward to Ancient Cellarspawn into Daze. Oh, this is awkward. So I'm going to go ahead and play Ancient Cellarspawn here. I'm going to do so around Daze to blank that card. And I am going to try to make my opponent Fatal Push the Ancient Cellarspawn before I do anything cool with the Shouldered. Sorry, yeah, so I want this card gone on Ancient Cellarspawn so that I can Shouldered One Ring my way to victory. That is my conceptual plan here. My hope was to do something like Ancient Cellarspawn into Unmask, or a removal spell to just kind of disrupt my opponent on what they were doing. My One Ring draws didn't cooperate. Alright, that sat on the stack for a while, so I'm not sure if my opponent has a counterspell or if they just walked away from their computer for a minute. I'm sorry, I do know what they have. So I guess I'm not sure why it sat there. Like, I don't know if they were thinking about dazing it for some specific reason. So my opponent never took any other game actions, so we get this one for free, which is a little bit disappointing because I think this was going to be a rather interesting game. So on turn 1, I don't have a Dark Ritual. Am I willing to do turn 3 Ancient Cellarspawn into Soulspike nonsense? I don't think so. I think we try to swing a little bit harder than this. Yes. I probably keep this getting rid of the Soulspike, and we are YOLOing on the One Ring, though. If I get Thoughtseized, I could still hardcast a Troll, but this is really going to be a Force of Will check hand, I think. Ponder's fine. This is the sort of situation where I wish I had game 1 Duresses to just check and see that the coast is clear, but as we saw in the previous game, the Fatal Pushes are, like, perfectly fine and good. Oh shit, that's so fucking good. So now I Dark Ritual Necrodominance, and I use Necrodominance as the bait spell, expecting this to eat a Force of Will. Nice! Itching Nadu. And then next turn, I will just Dark Ritual One Ring. And that is the way that I'm realistically expecting to win the game. Now, the fear here is that my opponent plays 1 combo piece this turn and 1 combo piece next turn. I do not like playing that Shuko prior to the Ponder here. I like casting my cantrips with the ability to sculpt the rest of my turn fully, so now there's no opportunity to, say, snag a fetch land and then fetch clear after taking the best card. Fatal Push is okay. I am not the best at triggering the Revolt if I need to kill a Nadu specifically. But I can Troll of Khazad Doom. A Boggart Trawler could be relevant in theory if my opponent kind of goes heavy on the graveyard. I'm super worried that my opponent just jams Nadu here. It is, in fact, worse than that. So, in case you aren't familiar with this combo, my opponent now is going to repeatedly target Cephalid Illusionist with Shuko, which has a 0-cost activation. My opponent is going to mill their entire library, returning a couple of creatures like Narcomoeba to play. Ultimately, they are then going to cast a Dread Return on Thassa's Oracle, and Thassa's Oracle notably just wins you the game, so it doesn't give a shit that I have protection from everything right now. We're going to go ahead and let my opponent mill themselves out here. just so I can take a look at their deck, and then we will unfortunately be conceding this one. Okay, so they have milled everything. Is there anything super notable here? There is a Memories Journey, which can allow our opponent to potentially stop something from being surgically extracted. There is Teferi to interact with my permanents. We've got Swords to Plowshares as other interaction. We do have some Urza Saga, some Shuko. I don't think I need to screenshot this. I've got the gist of this. So how do I want to interact with my opponent? I can do things that cover the graveyard, but that doesn't really stop a mid-range Nadu combo. And something like Damping Sphere could make it hard for my opponent to play, combo, win immediately, but again, that's not necessarily doing things versus the Nadu side, and Duress misses a bunch of stuff. It seems like this is going to be a difficult match to sideboard for. I think my opponent's deck is going to Goldfish faster than mine, and I think that's a bit of a problem. I do have these pitch spells that I can use to sometimes kill creatures in a meaningful way, while still tapping out for 3 and 4 mana cards. It is possible that I should just run back the game 1 deck. Ratchet Bomb is slow versus the combo pieces, but nice versus something like Urza Saga. I am not sure how much I need Soul Spike. I think for the game where I'm on the play, I'm going to try to just win. This is fine. So this game is probably going to play out a lot like last game, where on turn 2 I play Necrodominance, assuming that that gets a counterspell out of the way, and then I go for the 1 ring shortly thereafter. I have Fatal Push, or sort of a bridge turn, where I take out some combo creature. And we're seeing a Ponder here. My opponent is not necessarily as mid-rangey as some of these other Nadu decks can be. So we're not seeing... that's actually pretty good. So we're not seeing some of the, like, bristly bill mid-range stuff that we see from other builds. So let's see if we can get a counterspell out of the way. We succeed, pitching a Nadu. I'm going to call that a W. Really weird that I'm using Necrodominance as a bait spell. Just conceptually is not how I was expecting to use that card throughout this league. That is eating a Fatal Push. That is not making it out of this turn cycle. Dark Ritual. The 1 ring. Fantastic. Draw a card. Just before my opponent draws more cards. I'm just going to take that out. Absolutely. Fantastic. So now the hope is that I buy myself a turn, and then I find like a Sholdred or an Ancient Cellarspawn to carry the remainder of this game. This is scary. I can just get got by something like a Nadu here. Another black card for Unmask is okay. Ooh, buddy. Really hope that I don't need to double Unmask. Really hope that I do not need to double Unmask. But I believe that it is correct to do this. Which card I pitch to Unmask is more interesting. Ooh. My opponent's good. They will leave their best card on top of their library here, anticipating Unmask. I think it is hard for me to leave up the 4 mana instant for the rest of the game. I am going to, accordingly, hope that this goes well. So this domes my opponent for 4 while taking their best card. Notably, their best card that is currently in hand. Well, that's not great for me. I will, I guess, take their Brainstorm. The second Nadu doesn't do them much good. And we are then going to hope that I can burn my opponent out pretty quickly with Ancient Cellarspawn. I've got Draw Step plus 3 1 ring draws. Ooh, that is not Nadu mana. Okay, they tapped wrong. I was going to say, what is better than casting Nadu here? That is a tough bar. So Nadu gets to trigger twice. This is gone, this is gone. And Thassa's Oracle. Okay, so that's all for this turn. We lucked out a little bit there. Let's try to do some crimes. I mean, that's an answer. So I can now unmask, unmask target you pitching a Fell the Profane, deal 4 to my opponent, take a Nadu, then March of Wretched Sorrow, target Nadu, junk a card, max out on this. My opponent will get to draw 1 card here. It is a Force of Negation. Inconvenient. Yeah. So we get to hit my opponent. I was hoping to attack them for 3 more points of damage this turn. That did not happen. With 4 one-ring draws, I can probably kill my opponent next turn. But my opponent gets a chance to mid-range pretty hard here. So they can make an Urza Saga token, and potentially make a second Urza Saga token if they leave this up. I don't know, what their exact draw is here. Ooh, that's pretty good. That Force of Negation draw was sick. So my opponent now gets, oh, that's rough, at least 4 Nadu activations. Sorry, like Nadu triggers here. Oh, that's a Swords to Plowshares. That's online. I am, I think, very close to dead. I think it's worse for me if my opponent leaves this land untapped. Yeah. I think I'm going to take my draw step and then concede. Like, I am taking 4 immediately, plus a lightning bolt worth of damage every turn to the One Ring. That's rough. Fatal Push can't eliminate Nadu right now. Yeah, I think that's where I go ahead and tap out, and we fall a little bit short here. That's definitely proof of concept for this deck, though.
Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and honestly, they're just the best at what they do. If you need to keep your deck lists online, this is the way to do it. They have all sorts of different viewing options. You can condense that text if you like things to be tight. You can make them visual grids. You can put them in stacks. You've got all sorts of different ways to kind of view and visualize your deck lists. And they also have some really cool functionality, like allowing you to see playtest hands and even fully playtest your decks. So check them out.
All right. This doesn't have any fast mana to power out our multiple 4-drops, and the Soul Spikes aren't really great on their own. Please tell me one of these is a land. No, 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 no. So we don't get the turn 1 Necrodominance, unfortunately. We're on to 5. 5-card hand is great. So always 2 lands, always Dark Ritual. And then it gets a little more interesting. I really want the One Ring plus Sholdred. I should probably go for Necro Sholdred, given that I can play Necro on turn 1 on the play before it's Dazeable or Thoughtseizeable or whatever. I think that means these 2 are going back. How many cards I draw off Necro is sort of interesting. I would like to unfair Necro next turn with Sholdred, so I really want to hit another Dark Ritual. I think I'm going to go in for like 10 cards here. I did hit Dark Ritual, that's great. We didn't hit a Soul Spike, so I'm not going any deeper than just this. You can get rid of Necrodominance, probably get rid of one of these, get rid of at least 1 land, probably get rid of 1 Sholdred. Actually, I might want 2 of those, in case Thoughtseize is a thing that happens. This stuff feels kind of replaceable. Let's do this. Now, I no longer do get a draw step. Oh, cool. Once Upon a Time probably means that I just get to do my bullshit next turn uncontested, which is great. Ah, fuck. We might be dead. We're not dead. Whether or not we can just deal 20 to my opponent before they combo off and kill us is an entirely different question. I will go 4 mana for my Sholdred. I now get to draw 9 cards. And then we do this with Sholdred, always yielding to that. Now I can go ahead and Soul Spike my opponent, getting rid of something like a Fatal Push and a Necrodominance here, bringing them to 16. I don't have a black to get started with this, so that's, I guess, just what I'm doing. So my plan is Ancient Cellarspawn into combo win next turn. I think that means not the One Ring. I can get rid of a Swamp, and I can get rid of a Sholdred. I do just expect to die here. Like, my opponent kept a 6-card hand. I think it's very unlikely that I make it through the turn cycle here. 3 mana, 4 mana, Spy. So my opponent now gets to mill their entire library, as they do not have any actual lands here. And now we're going to see one Narcomoeba return. My opponent will then cast some spell from their graveyard, allowing them to bring back Poxwalkers. Yeah, that is a whopping 4 Poxwalkers here. So my opponent is then going to end this by returning a Thassa's Oracle to play with a Dread Return? Am I missing it, or is it in their hand? Oh, there it is. Okay, now that I've seen the Dread Return and I know that my opponent is going to have the appropriate number of creatures, I am just going to concede and not show them anything about my weirdo deck. So, I have a bunch of things that technically do stuff, but they're all kind of unexciting. Duress is fine. Fairy is fine. Damping Sphere does some stuff, but I will probably run into some problems with that too. I'm going to get rid of Fatal Pushes. Fatal Pushes instantly become Duresses. I need a minimum of 3 slots here. My opponent is often not going to give me targets for March of Wretched Sorrow. I think I'm going to turn that into Fairy. I think my opponent will often just 2-turn me if I Damping Sphere. Like do something like play out an Undercity Informer on 3 mana, then the following turn cast Cabal Therapy, 1 mana, cast Dread Return, 3 total mana. I'm not sure how much this actually does, given that I also want to be casting free spells. I think this is better against my opponent than it is against me, but I still might be running into my own problems from that card. What do I Fairy Macabre? Narcomoeba? Just stop the chain from starting. And my opponent Memories, Journeys, Narcomoeba to top of deck. Do it the next turn, or puts Oracle on top of deck. This is a fine hand for a fair matchup, but this is not a fair matchup. I don't think I can keep this. So I unmask on turn 1, and I try to work towards Sheoldred. That's not my favorite. Do I do better than this on average on 5? Maybe. I think I'm going to keep this and hope that my opponent mulligans further. We're definitely leaning on the fail rate of my opponent's deck a little bit by trying to keep a hand that looks like this one. Unmask, target you. Well, we will be taking Goblin Charbelcher here. And now my opponent is going to Cabal Therapy me. I think given where we're at, this just becomes a tapped land. My opponent is pretty unlikely to name a Sheoldred off Cabal Therapy here. Whereas I think there is some small chance that they could hit this. Yeah. I think you go for something like Necrodominance or the One Ring that is busted. Ancient Cellarspawn is fine. It is not a swift enough clock on its own, but if I draw something unfair to do afterwards, this is reasonable. Don't like that. Fuck. I mean, okay. I'm now dead to roughly 50% of my opponent's draws. So, land, Ancient Cellarspawn. This takes 2 black cards. It'll deal 11. But, you know, sometimes we just die to this draw step if it is a mana source. It's a mana source. I mean, that was the perfects off the top. So be it. And we're dead. All right. We're going to YOLO jam a Necrodominance on turn 1 and hope that it works. We are very cold if this does not resolve. We luck out. So now we're going to draw some middling number of cards. I just want to make sure that I draw enough to get something to do next turn. I think around 5 cards is probably appropriate. This right here, this is the colorless card problem. That's a little embarrassing. We'll discard a couple of Swamps and a couple of copies of the One Ring. My next turn sucks. Don't have anything to do with the Cabal Ritual. Red. Please don't fucking Vexing Bobble me. Actual factual burn. That is inconvenient, given what I started on. So I skip my draw step. That's not great. I really would like to hit a Sheoldred here. We are in a playing with fire situation, though. I think I'm going to go for a middling number of cards. I need some life next turn to start doing Sheoldred stuff afterwards. Negative. I will Soul Spike my opponent, getting rid of like a Troll and an Unmask. I go back to 11. I'll discard a swamp. Another mountain. I take 3 to the face. My opponent suspends a Rift Bolt. I can kind of counter that by playing the One Ring. So let's go 3, 4, get protection from everything, draw a card. Another Necrodominance is really not what I'm looking for. I'll play this tapped as a land. I think I'm just going to hope that the One Ring does cool stuff next turn and not draw any extra cards here. I think it is already very, very easy for me to die to my opponent's burn spells on my own turn or their following turn. And Rift Bolt just kind of chills. My opponent could cast it targeting themselves, but they have chosen not to. Fuck. So this is just another thing that is really, really going to hate on my free cards. I think it is going to be very difficult for me to beat this deck. I'm going to take some damage here. I don't get a draw step. I'll draw some cards with the One Ring. Yeah. How do I possibly win? I think I possibly win by going to 1 life here and getting lucky. I could die to this mountain. I'm going to pay 5 life. Arch of Wretched Sorrow cannot target a player. Did not get the soul spikes that I was hoping for. I am now going to die to Roiling Vortex, which happens before the One Ring. This conceptually seems really tough. In addition to the obvious life total problems, this is also just a 3/3, so it's going to die to every lightning bolt effect. So I guess the way that I win is just casting a Shouldered. I only have 3 Shouldereds in this deck. I don't have 4. Interesting. Not saying wrong, just interesting. I think I'm going to junk Fatal Pushes for Duresses. I think Duress will often save me more life than Fatal Push. I don't know how many creatures my opponent is actually going to be playing. There's a new effective Lightning Bolt from Foundations. I don't remember the exact wording. I think it deals 3 damage to target player. I think it's called like Bolt Wave or something like that. This has no starting mana source. So this is unfortunately a mulligan. This has 1 starting mana, which is not going to do it here. I'm going to 5. Starting off on an initial Necrodominance is awkward. So I think I'm keeping it. I don't think I unmask on turn 1. No, I can unmask on turn 1 if I'm just going to redraw a bunch of cards. I have 3 copies of Shouldered. This isn't particularly replaceable. I'm going to put a Soul Spike back into the deck so I can draw that later while still unmasking. I don't know, maybe I just give up the Shouldered, unmask, put Shouldered back in deck. Shouldered is how I win, though. Like, Shouldered Necrodominance is what I do to win. I don't know, maybe I just don't unmask and I Soul Spike on 1. Oh, fuck, this is a mulligan to 5. Yeah, then I don't unmask. So I need to draw a reasonable number of cards here. I want to draw enough that I can Shoulder it with some life left over while also Soul Spiking. But I think we're going to go pretty deep because I really want to hit a Dark Ritual. Let's try 10. All right, there's Dark Ritual. Fantastic. So Soul Spike, target you, pitch a card, pitch a card. Soul Spike, target you, pitch a card, pitch a card. I recovered most of that life instantly, which is great. I will junk an Ancient Cellarspawn here. In an ideal world, my opponent just taps mana here so that I am safely able to do Shouldered Crimes on my turn. Fantastic. So, yeah. My opponent can't Fire Blast me. I am not expecting something stupid like Gut Shot here. I think I'm safe to pay 16 life. My opponent doesn't have 2 lands for Fire Blast either. So we should be good to go. Then this happens, which feels real good. We go to 33 life. Then Soul Spike, target you, junk a Necro, junk an Unmask. That deals 4. That's all I've got here. Junk a land, 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 junk a Duress, junk another Duress. Junk one of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Still have to do 2 more. Junk a Duress. Junk a land. You love to see it. Opponent loses 2. Yeah, I don't know why we're not playing 4 Shouldereds. Chain Lightning. That's fine. I will not be blocking that. I'm at 37 life, so. Skewer the critics. That's fine. So I probably just win this game no matter how I play it out from here. This seems fine. So this turn I do have to worry about Fire Blast. Let's just draw like 20 cards. I guess I can draw 28, leave one card in there, and probably just draw 2 Soul Spikes to kill my opponent. That seems fine. Gain a gajillion D life. Oh, do I not have 4 Soul Spikes? Inconvenient, if that is the case. No, I need to do a Sickening Shoal. You can have negative like 4. And I don't have a mana to get March started. That's fine. Notably, I'm skipping my draw step here, so it doesn't like really super matter what I do anymore. We'll have an Ancient Cellarspawn left over and some additional life gain for if things get weird. My opponent is then going to die in their draw step. So is it 3? No, it is 4 Soul Spikes. The last one was just the bottom card of my library. I guess I can draw that last card. I'm not expecting my opponent to be able to remove Necrodominance in mono red. And then if my opponent just double Lightning Bolt Shieldred or something in upkeep, got extra gas left over. So there are creatures. Maybe now Fatal Push is better when I'm on the draw. And it's just better versus like the Goblin Guide, Monastery Mentor type cards that my opponent can be playing. This does not get to 3 mana initially. This gets to 3 mana quickly. So I will accordingly keep it and just get rid of a Swamp. I definitely feel weird about these Fair Necro starts, though. Is this 4 damage to any target? It is. I don't think I am interested in removing that immediately, but I might remove it on my end step via Soul Spike. That's great. That's probably not the direction that I'm going this game. So we are again going to do some fair amount here for Necrodominance. Maybe somewhere on the order of 7 cards. I want to do a couple of Soul Spike type things, but I need some life left over afterwards. If I have Soul Spike already, maybe I can go deeper to something like 10. Alright, so Soul Spike. I can just deal 12 to face and answer this later. I have Sickening Shoal as well. So junk, kill you, Soul Spike face, junk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Sure. Soul Spike, target you, junk. Then I don't discard. My opponent's at 8, but I've used up most of my Soul Spikes. I've ended up at a higher life total than I began at. So that Necrodominance went well. Roiling Vortex could come down this turn, and that would be a bit annoying if it happened. I'm going to take 1. My opponent is on an 8-turn clock. I could let them just kill themselves with Roiling Vortex. I don't know how likely that is to happen, though. I think I'm going to pay a moderate amount of life here. Like maybe 5 or 6. Trying to find like a Ritual plus a Shouldred or something to kind of stabilize this game. Yeah, this is fine. Let's just Swamp Cycle this out of hand since I don't have anything else to do with my mana. And then I'll discard a Necro. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I could Shouldred plus the 1 ring next turn, but that requires too many cards. Not going to have Threshold. This can go. This can go. Take 1. Is my opponent going to be Fire Blasting while playing main deck Roiling Vortex? I guess that's another question. Harsh Mentor. Sure. So that's good against the 1 ring. Take 1. Don't draw. So I will go Dark Ritual. 4 mana Shouldred. I have to be a little bit conservative here, because I can lose at least 3 life. What if I were to take 7? If I were to take 6? I could potentially take 7 in response. Just do like 5. 7 plus 5 equals 12. This seems fine. Gain a bunch of life. Right. That's okay, though, because in response to that, I Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, March of Wretched Sorrow on the Mentor, junking 2 cards for a large-ish number, gains 7 life there, and then it doesn't matter that I don't gain this life. Forgot about the other side of Roiling Vortex. It's possible that I can play that a little bit differently there. So take 2. Now my opponent's Roiling Vortex is a very real clock for them. The shouldered attack is also just lethal. Okay, that was pretty cool. That was kind of dicey, though. It felt like I was doing some very weird wiggling. All right. If I want to try to play fair and just like fatal push things for a few turns, this hand is keepable, but I don't think that's what this deck is about. This is probably fine. I probably keep this getting rid of the Soul Spike, and we'll see whether or not I feel like I need to unmask my opponent. All right. Yes, the answer is yes. So I unmask pitching the Troll because I need Cabal Ritual for next turn. Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. So my opponent kept a hand that does not actually produce black mana. So that's great for us. We will take the Undercity Informer. Getting paired against Oops again is some shit, though. Like, I think we have already deduced that this is not a great matchup for me. So we will Ritual into Necro. We know that our opponent is not going to really do much damage to us. I think I can pay like half of my life here, keep some for next turn. All right, there is 1 Soul Spike. The Soul Spike, target you, junk 2 cards chosen somewhat at random. So I am going to go down to 5 cards now. With this gone, the cards that are in my opponent's hand don't really matter anymore. I probably keep an Unmask to just trigger Ancient Cellarspawn immediately. So get rid of that. Get rid of that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could do this as my 5. And then I go land drop 3 mana, 4, 5, 6, 7. Play both of these. Draw 13. Probably kill my opponent. That seems fine. Cool. So I don't draw any cards, so we're doing the thing. Dark Rit, Goldred, Cellarspawn, move to end step, pay 13, gain a very large amount of life with Sholdred, then Soul Spike, target you, pitching 2 cards, deal 7 to my opponent directly, another 4 off of Soul Spike, and then we are going to deal another 7 to you directly, plus the Ancient Cellarspawn, or plus the actual Soul Spike damage. Okay, so we turned 3 Goldfish that time, which was great. My opponent kept 5? No, my opponent kept 6. Is it correct to keep a 6-card hand that has Undercity Informer but no black mana? Unsure. I don't know the math on that. So I probably want Duress. I probably want Fairy Macabre. And I think I decided no on Damping Sphere before. Fatal Pushes became Duresses. Did I get rid of March of Wretched Sorrow beyond that before? Something like that is reasonable. And then I decide whether or not I want to fuck around with Damping Sphere. It just like gets in the way of my own combo kill in a very, very awkward way. I don't think I want it. My opponent has begun the game with 7 cards. This is certainly not going to cut it under that circumstance. This does not do anything. We will be mulliganing. I think I'm looking for Fairy on the draw here. Or at least a insane Dark Ritual hand. Yikes. 3. Okay. So I'm keeping this. And then it's just the question of, like, do I want the second land or do I want a Duress? How much mana do I actually have? 19 plus Dark Rituals plus Trolls, kind of. 24. I think if I am going to present my own win attempt at some point, I need the other mana. Like, I have very powerful cards that can spiral the game out of control. That's rough. And I obviously lose Fairy there. Alright. That doesn't feel good. I can't take the Undercity Informer because of the reanimate. That's super annoying. So I guess the game plan here is take the land. Hope opponent gets stuck like last game, and I just luck sack my way out of it. Like drawing Dark Ritual and Necrodominance as my next couple of draws. Another land off the top is great for my opponent. 2, 3 mana. Alright, there's the Informer. And then I just die to that on my next turn. We can concede there. Now that I'm on the play, and Damping Sphere can come down before my opponent's stuff, do I want to do that? Seems fine. I don't know that it seems great, but it seems fine. I guess this makes my rituals worse. I could go down on Cabal Ritual. The +1 mana is definitely relevant to jump to 3 for these, though. I could just go down Trolls, rationalizing that I just physically need the lands in the opening hand. Speaking of needing lands in the opening hand, second hand does nothing here. Third hand is viable. I'm getting rid of 2 of these. The Cabal Ritual doesn't really do anything right now, and won't if I am doing Damping Sphere. I think I am getting rid of the 1 ring and trying to play a double Damping Sphere game. My opponent has kept 7. I'm not thrilled about that. Alright. Opponent may have a counterspell of some kind here. I don't think it matters if they do. I think I am just shoving this and shoving another one next turn regardless. Alright, we're in play. Their end of turn bounce spell here into the Floodmaw. So I get a fish. And then that gets bounced. Cabal Therapy hitting double Damping Sphere would be some shit. 14. This is obviously quite bad. There is a Spirit Guide. Alright. Oh, so there's 3 Narcomoebas here. So now I can Fairy Macabre my way out of this. So I see 1, 2, 3 Spirit Guides. So if my opponent has 1 more Spirit Guide, then Memory's Journey is live. Thassa's Oracle? Thassa's Oracle is not here? So how is this win happening? Cabal Therapy target self? So how do I beat Memory's Journey, put Lotus Petal on top? I guess Damping Sphere is the plan. I just make my opponent not able to cast the Oracle next. Or no, sorry, I've just completely missed the Oracle. There it is. There's also a chance that there is not a final Spirit Guide. I think that's a low chance. I guess we can target Dread Return Oracle. No, I fucked up. It's Cabal. It's Cabal Therapy as the other one I take, not Dread Return. Yeah, if I take Cabal Therapy as the second card, then I protect Damping Sphere. Yeah, so I fucked that up. My opponent knows about the Damping Sphere. Should have thought about that for 30 more seconds. So my opponent hits 2 of those, unfortunately. Sometimes I can draw like a piece of discard and get myself out of this. That fairy doesn't do anything here. Okay, no, that's fine. I'm just going to block here in case I draw Necro. Attacking my opponent's life total, not super relevant here. I can also take out Bridge from Below for what little value that has. I will play that as a land. I'm going to keep Fairy as a black card in hand. And then I can maybe get 1 more draw step here. But my opponent can just draw Oracle. Ball Therapy. Doing Fatal Push. And then it is the Oracle. Yep. So we have some unimpressive results this league. Alright, what do we think of this one? It feels really weird to me. The deck needs multiple expensive cards to operate. Like Ancient Cellarspawn with either Necro or the One Ring can do some crazy damage pretty quickly in this shell. But the Necrodominance is like not exactly great on its own because you're using it to set up something else afterwards. And if you try to go crazy and draw 19 cards immediately, you don't kill your opponent, you can deal 16 to them. March doesn't go at face. I feel like the deck wants 1 more Shouldered desperately. Like, the Shouldered plus Necro or Shouldered plus the One Ring is a recipe to win. It's really awkward needing as many black cards as this deck does, so that you can't run Lotus Petals to try to power out some of these things sooner. I think it's really awkward to want, like, 6 mana to win the game, especially when this dies to most commonly played removal. Like, it's going to die to Bolt, it's going to die to Swords. With a fetch, it dies to a Fatal Push. I think relying on this as a central part of the strategy is kind of sketch. It felt like I was slower than a lot of my other combo opponents. Like, obviously, we played against Oops All Spells, which is kind of pushing that to the max. But if everyone is trying to go fast in Legacy because you're trying to keep pace with Eldrazi and Blue-Black Reanimator, playing this combo deck that wants to settle into mid-range paced games feels like a really weird spot to be in. I'm very unsure about the configuration of this deck. I know that I want a 4th Sheoldred, maybe at the cost of a Troll. I am fully unsure whether or not I want Fatal Push or Duress in game 1. It's not Thoughtseize. The life is too relevant. But, like, do I just want Fatal Push to keep early creatures out of the way because, like, every point of life is relevant while playing this deck? Or do I just need to try and shove Necro in the One Ring and hope for the best? I wish I got to play another round with this deck. Like, my first opponent disconnecting or whatever means that I don't really have the best sample size with this. With Burn and Oops being 3 of our rounds, we did not necessarily have the most representative look at Legacy here. Like, sometimes we didn't just get our stuff going, and I had to mulligan, I feel, hyper aggressively with this deck. If this deck could run, like, 8 Dark Rituals, I think I would be on board with this. Then you have a better chance of, you know, Ancient Cellarspawn or Necrodominance turn after turn. But the need to play both of these and the Ancient Cellarspawn to survive as well, I think leaves this in a thoroughly janky territory. In terms of my own play, like, maybe I need to be more aggressive than I am with the first Necro. Like, maybe I just need to always draw, like, 10 cards rather than a more conservative 5, because I always just have to have the good follow-up play. But the more life you spend the first time around, the less you have the second time around, and you're not always going to draw into Soul Spikes to get yourself back to the life total you were at previously. If I was taking this super seriously, I could run, like, hypogeometric calculator numbers on, like, okay, what are my chances of drawing a Sheoldred plus a Dark Ritual in X number of cards? Like, I could run math on that sort of stuff to have a better feel for how likely I am. But given that I was playing this one time, I don't think that was super necessary to do. So overall, I give this one a thumbs up for fun, but a thumbs down in terms of tournament viability. But again, I think my perspective on this deck is probably very warped given the very strange matchups that I looked at here. All right, folks, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Should you need any cards for this, you know where to go. Promo code ThrabenU will save you a little bit on your order. All right, see ya.